That's it. That's it.
But
Yeah,
the
that's
good
it.
thing about
Place or Trent or someplace in New Jersey, and
Probably Fort Dix.
yeah, and I got acquainted with different people, and my English was not perhaps perfect, far from it. In fact, it was pretty lousy, and or non-existent
Yeah.
perhaps. But I could understand, what you say. You don't say colonel. That's the French. You say colonel.
Yeah.
Colonel. So because there were some people that use for Polish, so they corrected me. And the first thing to do was cigarette butts. That's what you pick up, and then you obey. You obey even though it's a nonsensical thing to do, but you obey because this is what's your position. You are a private, and you just obey orders, and you have to be very conscious of it. There were also KP if you overstep or if you don't do the right thing. The disciplinary kind of punishments. You have to be working in the kitchen and do a lot of menial work and stuff like that. And of course there was also training. Eventually we went to another camp, and then we had to train, run,
Was this in
and
Kentucky?
train shooting and
Was
using
this
weapons. What?
Kentucky?
This was after. After this, I was to Kentucky. From Port Belvoir, they sent us. That's here in Virginia. They sent us to Lexington, Kentucky, and this was an academy. And we lived in a hotel. It was pretty easy time. I mean, and I was kind of improving my English there, and slowly.
Yeah.
In what ways?
Well, as a matter of fact, the movie we saw yesterday, I think it's the movie that I did see in Lexington.
To have and have not.
Yeah. And I think
That's
I was thinking, well, shall I go to the movie? And there was a good-looking young woman standing there, looking at this, the pictures. Because in those days they would show some photographs of the movie. And I sort of indicate to her, maybe she wants to come with me. And she didn't say a word, and she came with me. and then after the movie, we left, and I said something to her. She didn't say a word. I just went her own way. And this was my first experience with someone who was an American. An American. It was not exactly a very promising beginning, but I didn't.
Somehow very fitting.
What?
It fits in well with your vision somehow. Your silent
But
cartoon.
then another man.
With no captions.
There was one guy who was very nice, a southerner, and he said, "You know what we do today? I invite you to come with me to the Sunday school." And I said to myself, "This is Sunday. Why is there a school Sunday? This doesn't make sense."
Yeah.
But this is America. I'll go to school.
Yeah.
Okay, we go to school. So we go to school, and I still remember to this day, there was a very strange, I got a very strange reception because he introduced me. He would have here someone from Poland, a heroic country, fighting the Germans. I was not a heroic country. I was just drafted. I was nobody.
Sound like sad
So
something.
I said, so what am I going to do? I didn't know. So I got up and I said, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And in the meantime, I saw something very strange. I saw people in actual trance, on the floor. They were so possessed by what was going on. They were real believers.
Maybe
Believers
it
in the
was
supernatural. I couldn't believe it.
Pentecostalists.
Whatever it was, I was
Wow.
amazed at this, what I saw. and of course, I didn't expect that. I thought it was a kind of a school, and, you know. Then so this is how you learn, you know. This is how you learn, and gradually, then because I was not a citizen, the government made a mistake. The government made a mistake, and they sent me to England, even though I was not a citizen.
They sent you to England to fight?
Yes, to England, not to fight, to be part.
Part of the war effort.
We were with the engineers. We were actually we had to go to the university to learn how to interpret the area for future bombings. So we had to design it, and because I was an artist,
Right.
they thought I would do well. And I did relatively well. I was among, I think, not number one, but I was maybe number 5 or 10. I don't know.
Sure.
I was among the better ones, and I qualified, and everyone was sent to England. But then in England, the documents had to be checked. And it turned out that I was not a citizen, and I had no right to be in England because I was not a citizen. You know, there was no right. I had no obligation, and the government had no right to send me before they made me a citizen in the United States. So in order to, so the unit I was with moved their own way, someplace in England, I don't know where, because in the army there are certain things you're not supposed to know. All I knew is I was in Lichfield, not too far from Birmingham, and some 3 or 4 weeks later, they sent a man from Washington, a judge. I think his name was Judge Harris. I'm not sure, but he came for the purpose of naturalizing me and some others. I was not the only one. There were people born in the United States. There was even one fellow, I remember, who was sent back because he was Polish American, born in the United States.
Yeah.
He didn't speak English, and the head of the camp, he thought that this guy was faking. He didn't want him to pretend to be unable to understand his language, which should have been English. How come? So I was sort of sent there to examine him and to make sure that he was not a fake, that he was really a guy who couldn't understand the language. He couldn't understand the commands in English. He could not be in the English-speaking army. And so I had to examine him, and I asked him, he spoke Polish, and I asked him various questions which convinced me that he was no fake. He really did not, and he explained to me he lived in some area. Well, you know, it is possible that people speak their own language. In those days, the people just didn't speak English, and this guy did not.
But what about his
he was cleared, and so this was one of the. Then when I was naturalized by the judge, there was something about. I didn't have to go through any kind of examination, knowing history, knowing this. I was just. All I had to say yes, and but there was a
in English.
In English, but I did have to. There was something about I owe no allegiance to any foreign prince or something like this, but I had this. The worst, I don't owe any allegiance to the foreign prince. It struck me as so absurd. What foreign prince? It's a nonsensical sentence. And so I smiled. So the judge said, if you think it's funny, maybe you should not be a citizen. You see, he didn't like that.
Wiped the smile off your face, didn't it?
So I said, oh no, I said, I don't think there's anything funny about it. On the contrary, I'm proud to be to be an American. There's no indication of being anything but pride. So he gave me this, he stamped American, and this was so I became an American citizen in England.
Wow.
It's a strange kind of thing. I didn't try. I didn't do anything. But then I was working for what was called. They had a name for it. There was a paper which they were sending to various army units, sort of indicating the reason for the war, the reason for fighting, the relations with the Soviets, and some of it was absurd and
internal propaganda.
But it's like the Mrs. Roosevelt writing about the Soviet Union, how we complement each other, the Soviet Union and the United States, there was so absurd, but I had to translate it because I think it was in Russian, and so
You had to translate it into Russian?
No, into English. I don't remember exactly, but I did some translation.
But that was translation.org.
Yeah, well, the translation so that it will go on to English.
This is while you were in England.
What?
While you were in England.
My English, I was already.
Yeah. So while you were in England.
Yeah, well,
yes,
I was gradually getting sometimes the English would say to me, because we had quite a bit of I would say, contact with the civilians. So they would say something to me. What part of the United States are you? You sound strange. And I said, sometimes I would say, well, I was absent from the U.S. for many years. I didn't speak English. And then they would say, well, it's normal, you forget your own language. Or
how long were you in England?
Quite a bit of time.
Till the end of the war?
No, later I was transferred to London, and then I became part of the Stars and Stripes. So I got some kind of higher rank.
And that's where you joined for Stars and Stripes? Is that what you were doing?
No, I already did draw for this small paper,
right.
And I did draw some funny drawings as well. Allegedly as a morale builder, and interestingly enough, my English was really not good, not very good, but it did improve because I was listening to it, and I had no choice but to get, and I was aware of a lot of things. I was aware of the color line when we came to England, how a lot of people were appalled in the American forces by the fact that the English girls had black soldiers as companions, to put it mildly. And they thought it was the end of the world, that they warned us. Yeah. You'll see that in England, the blacks and the English girls, you'll see it, and you just be prepared. And so I just intervened. I said, "You are here supposedly to fight the Nazis. You are here against fascism, against the injustice which the Nazis are committing." And then you are, why should you be concerned? If these women want to go with blacks, let them go with blacks. That's it. You don't have to.
What did they say?
They said, come on. And then they were...
they were ashamed?
They were not. I remember at one time, and we were eating at the canteen. It was still in England. And we were at this replacement center, and then some people, whites, all of them whites, came into the canteen, and we were sitting. I was sitting in the back, and there was some seats in front, and there were some black soldiers there, and then there was an intrusion, and some whites from somewhere came to have breakfast, and then they saw the blacks, and they said, we're not going to eat with niggers. And then they took they just took the tablecloth, and they just threw everything down on the floor, and it was a real disgusting picture, and it was almost the military police, the MPs, they got involved. They tried to pacify the situation. And eventually the blacks had to leave. It was disgusting, but this was a real thing.
Yeah.
And I
That
was
was
very,
shocking for you.
I was not unaware of it. And then when we left, we went to Kentucky from there, eventually. No, yes, we came from Kentucky. What am I talking about? We're in England, and I remember that. That there were indeed many cases in which the blacks and the English women were very very friendly to each other, to put it in a more less explicit way, and so you got a certain feeling, but. For some reason in London, when I was in London, I got some kind of somebody recommended me to become a member of the prestigious club, the Pamela Harriman Club, and they were discussing why I don't know, but and so I was there. I also realized that there were gays in the army. Before I didn't think so, because I knew someone fairly well, and we lived in a place where apparently there were a lot of gays, American Army, and not only American Army, there were people from the ballet who were coming in for a visit, and but this guy, whenever we were on the bus, this guy. I thought it was perfect English, but actually it was very gay English, because everybody would turn like this, and I was wondering why they turning their head, because to me it was just, I couldn't tell.
Yes.
Because it was different. This was because my English was still very insufficient. Still is, but anyway, I remember that, but I cannot figure out who recommended me to this prestigious club, and there were people like Harold Lasky, the people who are sort of scholars and people from the United States Senate. They will come in, they will discuss the future of India, they will discuss the future of Pakistan and what to do and how to,
Yeah.
and also I was aware of racism in England. Like, for instance, there were streets and there were signs, no Negroes, signs on the door.
This is in Europe.
In Europe,
in England, during the war.
In spite of all of the sympathy between the American soldiers and the British girls, the society as a whole was still quite racist.
Right, the British.
Yeah.
But there was one guy, and I think very colorful guy, Hyde Park. The Hyde Park, you could say anything,
Speakers
even
Park.
during the
Yes.
war.
So
It's
fun.
an amazing country. I thought this guy, he had all this, I don't know, he was like the guy who was in the play. He had all this regalia on his long robe, very tall, kind of indicated somebody who is on stage. And he was talking about the United States and the blacks in the United States, and he was talking about the blacks in England. and in the British Empire. And he said in the United States, they all say there is racism. But in the United States, you can be, you can work on a railroad, and you can be, there are trains, Pullman. You can be a train conductor. You can be, you can sell tickets on the train. You can do that in the United States. Try to be on a British ocean liner. Try and find out black there or Negro. Try. You won't find it. Probably he exaggerated, but that was his opinion, and he expressed it very, very kind of loudly, very frankly. Doesn't mean that he was crazy about America, but he was very. I think he was from Abyssinia, Ethiopia. I'm not sure.
Did
And
you
there were all
speak
kinds
to
of
him?
people. What?
Did you go up and speak to him
No,
afterwards?
no, because it was not possible. You know, there were so many.
Where were you when the war ended? Where were you located when the war ended?
Well,
Did you stay? Were you in the service until
When the war
when
ended.
the war ended?
when the war ended, I was in France.
Okay.
I went to France to Normandy from the
Get me from England.
from England to France, and then I was in France. I didn't really feel I was abroad.
Because you had been there before.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been there before.
He
I
was
knew
in Paris
Yes,
the day before the Germans came into Paris.
Sure. Right.
And
the
he
beginning.
and at the end,
Right.
towards the end of the war, he was in Paris the day after the Germans left.
it was
It's
perfect
an
planning.
amazing
Wow.
kind of coincidence.
You got to France because the army transferred you?
Yes, the army sent us to be. I was with Stars and Stripes,
Right.
and then Yank magazine.
Right.
But because I drew, and then, and also I was used as a translator in a way
Right.
to help.
So they felt it was more important for you to go to France then, or?
Well, because yes, I mean most people did. I mean there was no reason to stay in England because we have to go to Europe, and many Americans went further, went into Germany.
Right.
And I was not sent there. I was sent to France, and when we landed in Normandy, and we were on this, we went further, a little bit further to Rouen. This was a Caen, not Cannes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Caen.
But that's near Rouen.
It's in Normandy.
Yeah.
And we were met by people who were in the French resistance, and they were very happy to see two men who came out in a jeep.
I got. No. Go ahead. Keep going.
Came out in a jeep. They came out in a jeep. They came out in the two men, and one of them was driving. What is it? I should remember his name. He was a real SOB.
You always remember those.
No,
You did remember it. Relatively
Harwood. He was a journalist actually, and we were greeted with such real feeling of friend. We were so friendly. The people who were in the resistance and so happy to see us. They see American uniforms for a change. You know, this is to them. It was a big day, a big thing to see U.S. On French soil. And they invited us to sort of stay there, to spend the night there, and then if we could then have to have an evening meal with them, and of course I was helpful to this guy because I could translate from French into English, and the next day I hear that de Gaulle is coming. In a few hours he's going to make a speech precisely in this town, which was a historical event. And I thought, in as much as we were with the newspaper, it would be logical to stay for another couple of hours and then go on to Paris. And he said, no, I'm not going to stay because the hell with it. And he didn't even leave his name. I said, sign it, because I saw before leaving, and it was still very late in the morning. Very late in the morning.
Yeah, it's not.
I signed it.
Right.
I said, merci, etc. I said,
Yeah.
and for a nice sort of
Yes.
thank you note, but he wouldn't sign it for some reason. The hell with it.
De Gaulle wouldn't give you his autograph.
So
No, it was the guy, the Harwood.
Harvard.
Oh, Harwood.
Was
Okay.
unkind and
Well,
callous.
and so he was stupid, and I said, you know what? You just go. Fuck you. You go.
Yeah.
And I don't give a shit.
His
I
English
engage in
was good
profanity.
enough
Yeah.
back then.
I don't
Yes.
give a shit.
Yeah.
Oh, you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I learned
That's
English.
universal.
That's
Yes.
what he learned, almost the first
Yeah,
Yeah,
words.
that's the first words you learn. Yeah.
So
First words you
anyway,
learn in any language.
anyway, you go, and so actually, he got to the point. So we just drove to the point where I could make some kind of a contact with the American Army, which was moving from a different direction, and essentially hitchhiking to Paris. And so I did, and somebody stopped, and I had my dog tags, and they sort of examined me, and then they asked me about baseball, because this was something that the Americans are supposed to know.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah.
And I said, I don't know a thing about baseball.
Yeah.
I said it because
Yeah.
I'm not.
Sure.
I am not. And I said, I am what I am. But I'm definitely
You
not.
said that before Jerry Herman said that.
So anyway, I think one of them was Jewish, and I had my dog tags, and I think it was okay. They knew I was.
He realized you were Jewish also.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
But the ritual was to make sure. So you ask the guys about baseball, but some people knew very little about baseball. People from Montana, let's say, or Wyoming. I said, I don't know. They know rodeo. There are other heroes, other players. But anyway. This was my trip to Paris, and eventually we got to the Herald Tribune, and Herald Tribune established a headquarters for the informational sort of desk for soldiers who were in France. So this
And
was.
you're not working then for the Herald Tribune?
I was working for Yank then.
Right.
Yank.
And so you get a job with the Herald Tribune, or?
No, just the army. It was still
Right,
the
yeah.
army. I was not released.
So it was like a communications hub that people working for Yank would go there as well and use the Herald Tribune headquarters.
Yes. Yeah, and then this was like yes, there was a connection there,
Yeah.
and it was a kind of interesting time, because I realized that I did speak English already, and I could manage quite well in English, and of course French, and so.
So you were in France when the war ended, right?
When the war ended,
Yeah.
I was.
You said Spain, didn't
I was in. I think I was in France the day Germans left Paris. So the war ended but not officially.
Okay.
Officially, it took a little 2 or 3 weeks.
Right.
But the Germans, and they were still shooting from the rooftops. I remember.
Wow.
I remember I went to the hotel where I lived, and I was rather shocked by the fact that a woman came out of the hotel and she said, "This is the hotel where I lived." And she said, "These people." Meaning the concierge, the people,
Like the caretaker.
No, concierge, dans le,
The door, it's a cross
people,
between a
it's a French.
caretaker and a door.
They work, they keep, they are the people who take care of their clients in the
Right,
hotel.
sure.
You know.
Yeah.
So the work people downstairs, he and she, and I left some sculpture there.
This was before you left, before the Germans came in. You left sculptures there before
I
you
left some
left.
stuff there.
So you had done sculptures?
I left something there because
You had done sculptures?
Yes, I
did.
did
I only
some.
knew you as an artist.
Yes, I did sculpture, but actually, I was just too much. I could not.
Yeah,
Actually, this was a good, interesting piece because a very famous sculptor saw it and he thought it was great. It brought us.
What was his name? Do you remember?
I can't recall the name, but he was very well known. He was one of the, big names in
So
sculpture.
did
But
you
anyway,
remain in France after the war, or did you come home?
No, after the war, it's an interesting situation.
I'm watching my time because I'm short.
Yes.
But
He
I
is.
said it very
Yes.
quickly.
So I'm trying to get you moving somewhere.
My parents came
Right.
to. I just want to say that this
Sure.
guy was turned out he and she they were white, became white. They were so
Pale as
scared.
Pale,
of
yeah,
something.
yeah.
He said, "I'm saying, oh, so good to see you." I knew immediately they were guilty of collaborating.
Yeah.
I saw, and then I took a bicycle from them, and I said, "You give me the bike, or just give me the bike, okay?" And I took the bike, and I drove to my uncle's, because I had an uncle there on my mother's side, and I drove to his place. And interesting enough, I found my cousin who was she was in the resistance, heroin, real French heroin, and there was a man.
This is a cousin on your mother's side. Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
He was the man was upon the man in an Austrian uniform, an Austrian army uniform, a higher ranking officer, typical, aristocrat, very tall, very good looking, and very Austrian and non-French. And the uniform was Austrian, not French. And he was working for the French underground. So it was a real
So I have about I have about 5 minutes. So
5 minutes, that's it.
But
Yeah,
the
that's
good
it.
thing
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it is
yes.
that we can continue.
Well, I'm gonna
Because
come
now
back.
I know how to use this. And we can get another tape downstairs at the dollar store, and I can continue
Yeah.
to tape
Yeah.
And I can come back.
But there's nothing, but there's
If you
nothing.
guys come back.
Listen, there are other people who have much more.
No, because the
No,
stories are,
the
stories are
stories
great,
are-
and I want to hear
No,
more.
but
They're unusual.
Yeah.
the interesting thing is that
Yeah.
none of it is false.
Right. What I'm trying to understand, and you'll catch up with this mainly because of my piece. When two things. Number one, when did you come back? After the war, did you come back to the States?
Yes, my
where did
parents
you
came to it. My parents came to the States, and my father did see your.
Right.
Yes.
But now
videos.
Do you remember what year that was?
Yeah, 1945. We've got the war's over. Now,
Yes.
Right. Okay. And you were in France when the war ends.
Yes.
Now, did you then come back to the United States in 1945?
Yes, I
And
went.
where did you land?
No,
Where did you come back to?
I was in Nice for quite some time.
Right.
Was in Paris, and then I traveled a little bit. But I came to the States. I also came to the States because I was not allowed to stay longer because I was naturalized.
Right. So when did you come?
So-
when did you come back
Do
to
you
the
remember
States?
when?
And where did you come
When
to?
it was?
When?
Yeah. When did you come back to New York? Now did you come back to Philadelphia?
No, to New York.
Okay.
And
So you
And when
left
was
Philadelphia. You went to Europe.
Yes.
Okay, you came back to New York.
Yeah, but I think I did go to Philadelphia to see your people and briefly.
Okay.
And I know that my parents did.
Sure. I have one more question. When you came to Philadelphia the first time, did you live with where did you live in Philadelphia? Did you live with my grandparents?
No, I went back to New York, and in New
No,
York,
I'm sorry. When you first, 1942,
yes,
you come to America,
yes.
right? And you said you went to Philadelphia. And did you live in Philadelphia then?
No.
So you never lived
no,
in Philadelphia?
No, I did not stay in Philadelphia. I might have spent 3 or 4 days.
That's it, okay.
Yeah, but I did go to New York, and it's a strange story, but I knew someone who went to the same school as I did in Poland, and his parents were here, Simon.
Right.
And Simon, and he was, so he was very glad to see me, and he helped me a little bit with.
And did you live with?
Financial.
You lived with them?
No, I had enough money. I did some drawings. I did.
Do you know where you lived in New York?
In New York, yes. I lived in 3 different places, and one place I lived in 150th and Amsterdam or someplace in uptown, and I was amazed how many people spoke Spanish. I didn't expect that in America, you know.
Spanish
And then you moved.
And then I moved to another place, and there was an Irish woman, very rather old and very difficult, because I used to draw late, and she was very angry because I consumed too much electricity, and so I changed again, but it didn't matter because, tell you the truth, I knew that eventually I was going to the army, so it didn't matter.
Well, let's stop this for now while we say
my
goodbye
parents
to you.
definitely came here,
Yeah.
and my father decided to stay in France.
So you think so I didn't realize he came here in the late 40s.
Yeah, they were here, and my mother actually did go to a drugstore, and she wanted to buy something, and she thought that she didn't speak Yiddish, but she did speak German, because she didn't look particularly Jewish.
Yeah.
She thought that Yiddish and German were the same, and she didn't speak English. So she came, and she spoke German, assuming this was Yiddish, and the people were extremely angry because she thought, "What is this Nazi doing here?" And she almost threw her out.
Wait a minute. Oops, sorry. That was video, actually.
And good.
Now I can come get in the picture with you
All
guys.
right.
We're taking a video, actually.
Hi.
So over to this side. We're all here. Everybody say hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, Gina,
Yes.
say hi.
Hello.
Lucille?
Oh, hello, Steve. You've taken me aback. You know,
Hello.
I'm usually very talkative.
Hello,
Yes.
Steve.
Hello,
Any-
Jane.
Hello, Jane.
Hello,
and the rest of the
Jane.
family. We have a whole
Hello,
bunch
the
of
rest of the
Kovarsky
family.
families here. Anyway, okay, we'll stop that. Okay, I have a bigger